A Maze of Death is not Philip K. Dick's most talked about novel, but it's arguably his darkest. The novel makes bold and horrifying statements about the human condition and what humans really are. It's a story that fascinates me by its treatment to the concept of otherness. So in this video, I'll summarize the novel's plot and analyze its ideas. Before Philip K. Dick starts the actual narration, he inserts a little paragraph where he explains the religion that the characters in the world of the novel believe in. It's clear that religion is an important theme in a story, and this religion is very interesting. We can spend hours discussing it, but that'll make this video extremely long, and that'll be a bore. I might dedicate a whole episode to the discussion of religion in the novel if this is something that'll interest you. This video, though, will be centered around how the novel explores otherness and existentialism. So the story follows the deployment of 14 people to the planet Delmak-O. They're specialized in different fields, and the purpose of their deployment to the planet is to permit its colonization. To make it suitable for humans, the 14 experts see the mission as a wonderful opportunity. It's a chance to do something that really matters, to have a purpose, and to work towards that purpose. It's a relief from their purposeless, monotonous, unfulfilling lives. They fly to their destination with high hopes and soaring motivation. They get to the planet, they wait and wait, but are never given any purpose. Even this early, the overall premise of the story is indicative of the strong existential and theological shades it throws. The 14 colonists find themselves stranded in an unknown planet, cut off from the rest of the world. The communication system designed to keep them in touch with the world is damaged. It doesn't work. And Delmak-O seems to be a strange planet. They were supposed to listen to a briefing about what the mission was about and what they were supposed to do precisely, but the recording of General Triton's voice was damaged just as he was about to disclose the details of the mission. The 14 experts have all reached Delmak-O aboard Nosers. A noser is a means of transportation that has the particularity of making one-way trips. Come to think of it, getting to Delmak-O aboard a noser, which is a means of transportation that doesn't allow you to go back to where you came from, is similar to being born out of a mother's womb. It is also a means of transportation that brings us to this world, but that doesn't allow us to go back to where we came from. In Delmak-O, the 14 colonists very soon lose their enthusiasm for being part of a meaningful mission in an exciting environment. All their hopes and optimism are crushed underneath the hammer of the human condition, which Philip K. Dick condenses in the context of 14 individuals who approach this supposedly new and exciting chapter of their lives with high hopes, but who are halted by what they are: humans. The colonists experience bizarre things, but if you look at these things, there are fundamental features of the human condition. They're only magnified and highlighted a little more vividly in the context of a new unexplored planet. Back to the story. After they all reach the planet, the colonists start to get murdered off one by one, which imparts on a novel an Agatha Christie-esque feel. A who's done it touch. It's cool to discuss philosophies, but if a novel is not intriguing, it won't attract readers, and Philip K. Dick blends well thrill and heavyweight existential ideas. At the end, Morley gets into a fight with Belsnor, who almost kills Morley if not for the intervention of a group of mysterious men who rescue Morley and fly him aboard a functioning spaceship. Morley regains consciousness in the ship, fights with the group that has rescued him, and takes control of the ship. Then he makes a staggering discovery. With a bird's-eye view the spaceship allows, it seems that Delmak-O is not a foreign planet. It is Earth. Morley is shocked and can't wait to get back to the base and tell the rest of the team about his discovery, which he does. And it all makes sense. The reality therein is virtual. It explains all the peculiarities, the poppings. It also draws their attention to a tattoo they all have which reads Perseus 9. They turn to the tench that's been answering all their previous questions about the planet, but as soon as they ask it about the tattoo, it crashes and explodes. It's the forbidden question. It works like an incantation that crashes the whole world therein. The 14 individuals, yes, even those who've been murdered or killed or those who died, wake up in a damaged ship called, with little surprise, Perseus 9. They understand that their ship was damaged, it was lost in space awaiting to be found and salvaged, and that it was deemed useful to immerse the 14 crew members in virtual reality. But why? One reading is that it was the only way to prevent them from killing each other. And this makes a strong philosophical statement. It is the idea that wanting to hurt the other, to kill the other, to subjugate the other is the default human state. Abstaining from all of this violence is not instinctive, it is a decision. This is a position that's espoused by many philosophers. Here's what Sigmund Freud writes in Civilization and its Discontents. Men are not gentle creatures who want to be loved, who are the most can defend themselves if they are attacked. They are, on the contrary, creatures among whose instinctual endowments is to be reckoned a powerful share of aggressiveness. As a result, their neighbour is for them not only a potential helper or sexual object, but also someone who tempts them to satisfy their aggressiveness on him, to exploit his capacity for work without compensation, to use him sexually without his consent, to seize his possessions, to humiliate him, to cause him pain, to torture him and kill him. Homo homini lupus. Who in the face of all his experience of life and history will have the courage to dispute this assertion? The same position is mirrored by Thomas Hobbes, where he explains that giving up some of our freedoms to some form of government was the only solution to curb humans' instinctive desire to hurt each other. The first characteristic of being a human is that our experiences of the world are mediated through our senses, and that our senses can never allow us to experience the world as it really is. This idea is magnified through how the 14 colonists read different messages on a mysterious building that pops in and out of appearance. Every one of the colonists sees a different inscription on the building. This indicates that none of them experiences the building as it really is. In phenomenology, there is the idea that all objects of perception are experienced through the prism of the perceiver's history, mood, state of mind, identity. The process of eliminating all these distractions and bracketing them is called bracketing, and also epoche. There is a debate in phenomenology about whether it is at all possible to effectuate bracketing and to experience objects of perception in a neutrally unaffected way or not. And even when it is argued, when it is theoretically argued that it is possible, the process is described as hard, strenuous, and unnatural. What ensues from this is that we can never talk about the same things or engage in clear communicative acts because you have no idea how I experience the things I talk about. And this is very likely to create misunderstandings, conflict, and confrontation. The second point is that ethics is first philosophy. The idea is that by virtue of what they are and how they're wired, humans will gravitate towards wanting to kill each other. Abrahamic religions understand this idea very well. The first major advance that happens after Adam and Eve are kicked out of the Garden of Eden was that one of their sons kills the other. Cain kills Abel. So if, for example, my eyes randomly stumble upon a knife, the way the image of the knife is given to me is very unique to me. It is quasi-impossible for me to experience the knife without affecting the experience by who I am, my history, my state of mind. And I know that that same image of the knife is experienced differently by other people. This situation is frustrating for many reasons. It further alienates the other from me and me from the other. We learn towards the end of the novel that the 14 colonists' mission and even presence in Delmak O is a simulation. Their physical bodies are in a malfunctioning spaceship roaming in outer space with a dim hope of getting found and rescued. The crew members decided to enter a virtual reality where they're assigned an important mission in the planet Delmak O, but why? If they hadn't, the crew members would have murdered each other. This is what we'll try to discuss. Hegel explains very well this relationship between the self and the other. Hegel tells us that if we break it down to its simplest form, other is the opposite of same. For example, everything that is not in you is other. The wall in front of me is other, so is the table, so are you who are watching this video. You are other because you are not in me. The thing with humans is that they have objects of desire. They want things that are outside of them. We're not content with the self. And this would explain very well the protagonist's final desire in the novel. When you see a piece of chocolate, it is other for you, but you want to consume it and make it part of yourself. This is a particularity of the human. Hunger has you desire food, thirst has you desire water, but things get complicated with consciousness. Consciousness makes you want to absorb another human being who experiences the world in a completely different way and who is also conscious. If we look at how desire works, we notice that it is satisfied only when it makes the external part of the self. When you see a phone you desire on a store shelf, you want to make the phone part of who you are. Your car is not just your car. Having that car is part of who you are. Hence, you want to destroy the existence of the phone as an other, so desire is satisfied only when it extinguishes the object it desires and incorporates it into the self. It's all fine with inanimate objects, but as soon as one human meets another, conflict arises. You want to destroy the uniqueness of the other by making him part of yourself, and the other too wants to destroy you by making you part of himself. This situation creates a duel, a confrontation that results in what Hegel describes as the lord-bondsman relationship. This confrontation is brutal. The winner is the master, and the loser either loses his life, dies as a result of being outpowered, or loses by being relegated to a slave. A slave is absorbed into the desire of the winner's self in the same way you absorb the piece of chocolate you desire. You annihilate it. And so is what happens to the slave. He loses his independence and becomes part of the master. This dehumanizes the slave. This is simplified. This is very simplified. It is an account of the slave-master relationship and how it comes to be, and it explains the inherent state of conflict that is bound to arise whenever two or more humans get to meet. Hegel's master-slave duality wonderfully accounts for oppression, violence, and the acceptance of being a victim. So when a person encounters a pen or a flower or anything non-human, it is a soothing experience for two reasons. One, you can perceive the objects of perception in whichever way you want, regardless of whether your perception is right or wrong. The object of desire will not challenge it. There are no consequences. Two, and more importantly, the object of perception will not try to perceive you back. But when two humans meet, the confrontation sparks a duel, and one dominant side monopolizes the perceiving vantage position, and the other side relinquishes its capacity to perceive and contents with being perceived. Now, Lévinas on otherness. Lévinas agrees with parts of what Hegel says and disputes other parts. Lévinas's major contention with Hegel's account is that the human other, even the weakest of others, remains fundamentally different from the non-human other, and that's because the human other has a face. When you encounter a human other, you can never absorb him in the same way you absorb a non-human other. The other's face forces you to make a number of considerations that render his absorption impossible. Let's say you get out late in the evening and you walk by a garden. You see a bench, lampposts, flowers. You perceive them in an assured, confident way. But the moment your eyes fall on a human, you're disconcerted. Regardless of how friendly, how meek the human is, you can never absorb him in the same way you absorb non-human others. The human other detains a perspective from which he experiences the world and, more importantly, experiences you. And you have no idea how you're being experienced by this other. This mutual tension is relieved through ethical considerations. By virtue of possessing faces, the self and the other strike an ethical contract whereby they don't absorb and annihilate one another. In appearance, it seems that Lévinas's account is more optimistic, but it is not. While with Hegel, the encounter results in a victor and a defeated slave. With Lévinas, there is an ongoing and uneasy state of consideration of the other's being as an impenetrable perspective that I can never fully understand or absorb in the same way I deal with all the non-human others. And this is wearisome. At the end of the novel, when the protagonist is injured, he is recuperated by a group of individuals who show him that this tarmac looks a lot like planet Earth after all, and that it's only a generated simulation. He has the opportunity to log on to another simulation where he could be whatever he wants, a hero, a samurai. But he refuses. He prefers to be a plant. No matter how in control you are, no matter how powerful you are still at the mercy of your consciousness. Confrontation with the other is strenuous, and it could result in either being a slave, a master, or in fighting off your murderous instincts by striking an ethical contract, striving to keep honouring it, and being constantly at risk of having the other breach it. It's much better and calmer to be a plant. Now this video has reached its end. If you're interested in the discussion of the religion in the novel, let me know. Until we meet again, have a great day.